Report. It's that portion of the show where we dig into the papers, let you know what exactly is transpiring in Ghana and beyond. And of course, I'm doing this together with...
Oh, Mama View Swapwachi.
As always.
That's my name.
The Ghanaian Times, The Finder, and The Daily Guide are the papers I have this morning.
All right, stick to the rest of it. And I'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Front page, Parliament records higher sit-ins. According to Speaker, accept 3,461 papers, 7 private members' bills being worked on. The record higher number of sit-ins, volumes of work, and major reforms under the 7th Parliament of the 4th Republic have culminated in the adoption of the principle by Parliament that private members' bills should be allowed to fill in the gaping gaps in the country's laws and meet the needs of the time. So there's a spotlight on this Parliament, this 7th Parliament that we will be dissolving midnight on the 6th of January. There's a picture of the Speaker of the House, Professor Aaron Mike Okwe. Also, update on 2020 parliamentary election. NPP has 137, NDC 136. There's one independent candidate, the MP-elect for Fomena, and there's one outstanding. That issue the court is handling. Seek redress in courts. Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council tells NDC. Also, President attends Ouattara's swearing in as part of 3-nation trip. Let's uphold country's peace. That's a call by some security experts. Let's check out what's making the center spread of the Daily Graphic this morning. It says NPRA explores avenues to invest pension funds. 30 tons of e-waste retrieved for recycling. Justify your claims of victory with pink sheets. Majority leader to NDC. On the back page of the paper, water crisis hits Yendi. And the Yendi municipality in the northern region has been hit by water shortage following the destruction of a power panel of the Ghana Water Company at River Dakar last Wednesday by fire. As a result, residents now travel long distances in search of water. Also, police arrest 5 for rioting, burning lorry tires on streets. The Ghana Police motorbike patrol team last Sunday arrested 5 persons for allegedly rioting and burning lorry tires on the streets at Christian Village Junction at Achimota here in Accra. The arrest was effected during a demonstration organized by the women's wing of the NDC to reaffirm the party's rejection of the presidential election results as declared by the chairperson of the Electoral Commission last Monday. So the details of that, how the CID headquarters was besieged, there's a police report, the subsequent interrogation. But I also want to put the spotlight on the story on page 29 of the Daily Graphic newspaper. It says, a Jumako DCE arrested for assaulting cop. And I thought that this story will actually make all the front pages of the paper today. It's a very important story. Interesting it didn't. And even in the Daily Graphic, where's it hiding? Page 29. I had to look for it because I have been passionate about this story after hearing of it yesterday. It says the district chief executive of Ejumako Enyan, Esiam in the Central Region, Ransford Kwesi Nyako, was yesterday arrested for his alleged involvement in the assault of a police officer. Listen, we've got the story. We want to share details of this story with you. So if my director is ready to play it, we're ready to hear the details of it. Here we go.
On the 2nd of December 2020, Corporal Frank Mensah was on duty at the Ocheso Police Station Charge Office. And around 9:30 in the evening, a complainant by name Sophia went to the charge office to make a complaint that one Cosmos has assaulted her grandson. The police officer accompanied the complainant and he effected an arrest. The suspect was kept at the counterback at the police station whilst the police officer was taking statements from the parties involved. According to the police officer, he had a call from one Bob who wanted to speak to him, and the phone was brought by another person. On the phone, The said Bob was insulting him, and according to the policeman, it was so irritating that he handed over the phone back to the person who brought it. Some few minutes later, he saw a motorbike, 2 vehicles, including the vehicle of the DCE for Ejubako Esiem, in the person of Mr. Ransford Kwesinya, who together came with other people to the charge office, and the DCE started slapping him, and he pushed him against the charge office counter. He also ordered the persons following him to assault the police officer, after which the DCE ordered the removal of the suspect from the counter bag, and he went with him in his car. The police officer went to the divisional headquarters to make a complaint, and the case is under investigation. Today, 14th December 2020, the DCE has reported at the regional headquarters, where the case has been transferred for it to be investigated, and he is under arrest. He is being investigated for assault on a public officer.
So that's DSP Irene Sewa Opong, and she speaks for the Central Region Police Command. So basically, I mean, like if I was doing chi, the cra and say, the DCU, District Chief Executive, I mean, look at the scheme of things. He's a representative of the president.
And
where he is.
Exactly.
He actually led a group to go and assault a police officer, and then released somebody in custody.
Exactly.
You know, like he's got a lot of guts.
The effrontery, the impunity of it. And you see, there are 2 angles to this for me. Unfortunately, I have to criticize the media, because on a day like this, we don't highlight a matter like this. It's hiding on page 29 of the Daily Graphic. No other paper, at least from what we've seen thus far from the stack of papers we have, captures the matter. And this is why the impunity goes on. This is why people in high office can do whatever they feel like doing, because they feel we can do it, and our ox is God. We are sacred cows, and we'll get away with it. See, my 2 major issues with this. 1, a DCE doing something of this nature. We don't cover the stories, we just let it slide. And if we had not brought it to the fore this morning, a lot of Ghanaians wouldn't even know about it. That is one. But on the other hand, the police reacting in this case, here's the other side of the story. If it weren't a police officer, for example, who had been assaulted in this case, are you getting the other picture? Sometimes when it's an ordinary citizen of the land, some of these matters come up and they die natural deaths. In this instance, it is a police officer affected. So you see the sort of reaction coming to it. I'm saying that it doesn't matter whose ox is God. We ought to be fair to the general citizenry. Over the years as a journalist, I've captured so many stories where you have ordinary people go through brutality. The stories end up nowhere. You call the police, you even report the story, they take your statements and everything. The cases die natural deaths. We want to see some action on this DCE's case. A head must roll.
Yeah, I feel you. I just want the spotlight to remain on the issue as it is. And I'm worried because there was a complaint following that there was an arrest. And I don't want that issue to also get lost in the midst of this. But it's a shame, absolutely shame, that a DCE will follow up. And yesterday I listened to the Central Regional Minister who said he failed to show leadership in terms of the DCE. The police accounts is definitely different from what I heard the Central Regional Minister narrate. From the police accounts that we've heard this morning, the DCE actually followed up. He actually also did give some slaps. So he also led in this assault, issue of assault. First of all, I think that we have to congratulate the police for even coming out with this issue. Sometime in the past, you probably don't even hear them tell their own story. So it's a good thing. What we need now is justice. We need justice. It's not enough to say he was arrested and he was granted bail. We need to speed up with the process. Fortunately, he did it against the person on the other side as a police officer. And when you go to court, the police, you know, the judges would believe the police a lot because that's a good source.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is we've got a good case. Let's deal with it. Let's get some speedy prosecution to this. DCE or whoever it is, once he did this, he's got to face the law. And it's a big shame, big shame. I really do hope that even before something comes out in terms of prosecution, we will hear something from the presidency, because he's a representative of the president. And he leads people to do this as it has been narrated. Can you imagine if nothing happens?
One thing that kills me.
Ordinary people are watching. We could also do the
Mama
same.
V, did you just ask me that question? Can I imagine if nothing happened? In fact, I can, unfortunately. I can.
I hope that
with the antecedents in the past and the different administrations.
We need the presidency to say something, respond, do something. This person must be relieved of his duties whilst the investigation, the prosecution.
Should we even be here saying this at this point?
But we're saying it hasn't happened.
Should we be here?
It hasn't happened.
Maybe it should have happened a long time ago.
We should be reminding the presidency every day. We'll be knocking on the door of the local government ministry as well, because this certainly concerns you. It's a big shame that we're waking up to this morning after the December 7 elections and we're faced with this. This happened December 2nd, you know?
And these are the things that frustrate ordinary citizens and make people even wonder whether all of this bit about elections and going to the polls and electing leaders, whether it's worth it. I would say as a student of political science, it is worth it, but it is when leaders fail to act in such instances that we all get very distraught and question you, those of you at the helm of affairs. Let's get to the Ghanaian Times newspaper. So frustrating. Anyway, 44 die, 169 injured in road crashes during election period. Another sad one. It appears it always comes down to this as elections approach, as Christmas approaches. But quite a number of stories from the Ghanaian Times. I'll just pick and choose a few of them. Radio presenter arrested for allegedly insulting and threatening the president. Now, I'm going to focus a bit on this as well, on the back of the impunity we have in our system. I remember, Mama V, I think it's, I saw recently, I think it's Gabi Asario-Trodako, who posted some time back when former President, may his soul rest in peace, Atta Mills was being insulted by some people. And the post was, there is no law that criminalizes insulting a president. Okay. That was the post then. And here we are with Oheneba Boama Benny, who is with Power FM. And apparently, he has insulted the sitting president as someone who was given a proper upbringing from home. I wouldn't say it is proper to insult anybody, not just a leader, anybody, even a child, I mean. So that is wrong, but is it criminal? And of course, there is the bit about threatening the president. Whether or not he did do that is another matter altogether. But listening to his lawyers, you know, Adawudu and others, and the sequence of events from yesterday, the things that happened at the police headquarters, the CID, and, you know, matters arising, and even the posturing of the police, it gives me a lot to worry about, because in this country, unlike in other legal jurisdictions where you are guilty until proven innocent, in this country, you are innocent until proven guilty. And so if someone's culpability or guilt has not been established, I don't know. I mean, the things I heard, I just don't want to repeat them here because it's his lawyers, his representatives saying that. But the sequence of events, I am incredibly saddened by them. And that is why in that initial issue about the police, I was getting on the case of the police, because it appears when they are involved, it's a different kettle of fish. When it's the ordinary citizen facing the onslaught, it's also different. Well, that is that. You can dig into it on page 3 of the Ghanaian Times. 3 killed, 10 houses burnt in the Upper East following land disputes. That's another story there. And let me just say this. If you see us masked up this morning, it is for good reason. Yesterday I checked, the COVID-19 numbers are approaching 1,000 again. 900 plus, approaching 1,000. Eswatini, if that's the new name for Swaziland, okay? Their prime minister has died after contracting COVID-19. Now you PM, they die. Now you, why? Do the best for yourself. Other stories in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Police study docket on Ablekuma journalist shooting. I'm talking about Pius Quinin, CEO of the Ghana News Watch. It's a story we've been following, and at least some successful operation there. We pray for the very best for him. And on the back page, electrical scrap storage facility to be completed June 21, and fire destroys property worth almost 940,000 Ghana cedis in Upper West region. That's it for the Ghanaian Times newspaper.
There's an interesting news desk report on Professor Benes Meda. It says police failed to produce suspect again. So I'm still sticking to the Daily Graphic newspaper.
There were a number of suspects. One passed, and there were others. And in fact, following the passing, there was another one who was apprehended. Was it in the Tema area or something of the sort? So there are multiple suspects.
So there's one who is also not well, who's also on admission in the hospital. But let me just read what's here. It says the prosecution and the trial of the murder of former University of Ghana law lecturer Professor Emmanuel Yaubene has failed to meet the 48-hour timeline by the Kaneshie District Court to furnish it with a comprehensive medical report of the second suspect, Opambuo Ejabedun cancer. Last Thursday, the court gave the prosecution 48 hours to furnish it with a comprehensive medical report on Nkansa after his absence from court for the sit-straight on the excuse of the prosecution that Nkansa was indisposed. The failure of the prosecution to bring Nkansa to court because of his health condition has become a recurring issue in the case recently. He's been absent for 7 consecutive times since October 14 this year, after the prosecution had told the court that Nkansa was indisposed and was receiving treatment at the police hospital. So let me just fast forward. The paper has put down the exchange between the judge and the investigator. So the following are excerpts of the interaction between the presiding judge and the prosecutor. Here's judge. When are you going for the medical report? Investigator responds, I will check on it tomorrow, which is Tuesday, December 15, today. Judge says, what dates were you given by the director in charge? Investigator says, my lord, they did not give a date. Judge says, what is the state of the accused person, which is Nkansa in this case? Here's the investigator. He's still responding to treatments. Then judge asks, does it mean he cannot walk? Investigator says, yes, my lord. Judge says, let me know how urgent the medical report is. And then hearing continues on December 29 this year. Okay, so that's the update that I'd give. Form your own opinion based on that. But you can also grab the paper and read the rest. Let me do the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Front page of the Daily Dispatch. The evidence will stand the test of time. NDC legal team seem to be echoing there. Daughters step in father's political shoes in MPP and NDC. Was it the Daily Graphic that the story yesterday that we shared? Well, there's the Daily Dispatch also put in the spotlight on that. The problems over the Techiman South seats can only be settled in court according to the Electoral Commission. NPP's Okoboy back in consulting room after parliamentary loss. A lot of people made noise about this when he posted this on his Facebook. But tell you what, even when he was still campaigning, he was still consulting, if you know him very well. So this is not new. He was only saying thank you and posted the picture of him consulting. He never stopped consulting. He was still working. So that's it for the Daily Dispatch, really.
Let's move on now to the Finder newspaper. And the Electoral Commission has been talking. It says, use laid-down processes established by law to seek redress. And, of course, that is aimed at the NDC. More private capital flows needed to drive financial inclusion. That's according to a study. I mean, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know this, especially on the back of COVID-19. National Hydrographic Office opened in Ghana, and that's a bit of an interesting one. Now, Ghana supposedly has joined, well, not supposedly, has joined the elite league of countries with a dedicated National Hydrographic Office after unveiling the much-awaited Center of Hydrography at the head office of the Ghana Maritime Authority. Now, this is actually a requirement of the International Hydrographic Organization, of which Ghana is a member. And it also issues international best practices and provides guidelines for the maritime industry. So Ghana joining that elite league. 2,310 perish in 11 months, 945, that is 40.9%, killed by motorcycles, which brings back the conversation about the use of motorbikes. And I'm not just talking Okada here, because there are the commercial angles. There are also those who use them for private enterprise. Tampoli, Dr. Amin, key MPs behind Nanado's big gain in Northern Region. The NPP won quite a number of seats there, making inroads there. Integration of NHIS and Ghana cards sparks surge in mobile renewal of membership. Those are some of the interesting stories in there. There's a bit of a feature that you might take on page 7. My thoughts on partisan politics and elections by Hannah Awaji. All of those stories in the final newspaper this morning.
All right, let's do the Daily Statesman, the last paper for me. Front page, EC directs NDC to go to court over disputed Techiman South results. NPP to probe parliamentary losses. Majority leader discloses. And that reminds me, there was a question. Wasn't the Daily Guide on its online portal where there was a question put to Osei Mensah so whether or not they're going to admit the Fomena MP back into their fold? What did he say? He said no comments.
He said no comments. That's what he said. But eventually, when more was, got out of him, there was talk about the fact that I think he, together with others, that yes, there would be some moves to interact with the Fomena MP, and even suggesting that the other side, the NDC, was also courting the Fomena MP's attention. But interesting.
He's a free agent.
You did the Daily Dispatch.
Yes.
Ben Efson has been, advising the Fomena MP, Honorable Esiama, not to take any ministerial position from his party, especially on the back of how he was treated, his ousting from Parliament on the behest or at the behest of his own party and all of that. But you could say right now, in terms of Parliament, the Fomena MP elect is probably the most powerful. Right.
So yesterday I was trying to go through the NPP's constitution, okay? It was based on what they have in there that they sacked him from the party. But I was looking at how do you come back?
Let's not even forget the wording of the president. I can't work with any MP who goes independent.
Yeah.
The underlying word is I can't. Mean to me. There's no way I can work with this person. Are they going to work with him now?
Well, maybe the presidency cannot, but their parliament.
How does the legislature work without the executive? The president stated categorically, mean to me.
So this is it. This is from the NPP's constitution, okay? Whenever a member ceases to be a member through resignation, expulsion from the party, or forfeiture of membership, which is what happened to the Fomena MP, the person may reapply for membership of the party, and the person may be readmitted on conditions provided in the constitution, except where the National Executive Committee decides otherwise. So I was thinking, maybe we should put the question to the National Executive Committee, because they could decide, oh, we want to have you back, instead of reapply to be admitted. You get what I mean? Because he's not a member of the NPP.
But this wouldn't be the first time that a member of parliament, even within the NPP, Joe Wise himself, I mean, there have been instances in the past where they've gone and come back. And now they are bigwigs within the party and in parliament. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I think we should just be a bit careful with the sort of rhetoric. When I listened back then to the president being so emphatic, I was sitting back and wondering, of all these independents, my guy, you don't think I say one of them go and Kaneke, the Fomena MP is in pole position to ruin a lot of things. I mean, can you just imagine though, if he decided, let's assume that somehow it ends up, because there's one seat still being contested, Senate seat. Let's just say for these purposes that it becomes 137. And this guy decides, because for parliament, there must be, that's why it's an odd number. There must be a majority and a minority. Let's assume he decides to go the way of the NDC.
Oh,
I'm just hypothetically. Do you know what that would mean, what it would do?
He would never ever do that.
But I know his own people in Fomena have said that they voted for him, but they want him to remain with the MP.
Yeah, because he even said to Joseph Opoku Gakpo that I will win it for the NPP.
Exactly.
I mean, he's a proper.
I feel even if he wanted to do otherwise, it would be a betrayal of the people who voted for him. In a way, because when you listen to them, at least right here, what they told us on JoyNews, they want him to go back to the party. But they just wanted to make a point, and they made that point.
Osei Mensah should not be saying no comment to that question. He was in leadership when the speaker was sent that letter for them to get him out of Parliament.
He was one of the proponents. I mean, I don't know. What is this? He was in leadership.
Okay,
they did the thing.
So that's what I want to say. What can I say? So he shouldn't be saying no comments.
That's what happens when you have egg on your face.
This is sweet. I think like one of the sweetest things that have come out of this 2020 December 7 is this whole formula. When you're doing things, Charlie, be careful what you do.
Watch it. The Daily Guide this morning, NDC gurus threaten police. We know where your families are. It's on the back of that case I spoke of initially with that Power FM presenter. Of course, a bit of an exchange between the lawyers and the police. NPP leads NDC in Parliament with 1 seat. NPP makes massive gains in Northern Region. And then NDC withdraws Techiman South case. Now, I found this interesting because in all the other papers, they talk of the fact that there are processes. The EC even has said that they should go to court. But here, the Daily Guide is suggesting that Christopher Bayre, the NDC's candidate in that Techiman South Bono East Region contest, has decided to withdraw the case. Well, I guess in coming days, we'll find out what exactly the facts are of that matter.
Okay. We've got some interesting stories on myjoyonline.com. If there's any story you want to highlight in any of the papers, Ben, before we do myjoyonline.com.
Maybe before I check out a few trends, and of course, you check out My Joy Online. Maybe you'll do that before I check out the trends. Let's also mention that Dr. Eben Chambers has been in the news quite a bit. He's he's been calling for the two sides. Recently, he's been referencing the peace pact signed between the NDC and the MPP, and he's calling for them to to bring an end to the standoffs and demonstrations. But we have quite a number of demonstrations coming up from the NDC's end with different names in different places.
So
Ashanti region.
Yeah. So just on this story, if we go to myjoyonline.com, which we're going to go in a little bit, you find this. NDC has no right to compromise the peace in Ghana. That's from Most Reverend Emmanuel Asante, and I'll read a bit of it. It says, immediate past chairman of the National Peace Council, Most Reverend Emmanuel Asante, says the National Democratic Congress cannot be allowed to compromise the peace Ghana currently enjoys. According to him, the NDC must appreciate the importance of the 42 days set aside for election petition to seek redress in court and not on the streets of Ghana. Here's a quote. Former President Mahama and the NDC are saying they will not accept the result of the election. There is nothing wrong with that. They have every right to express their views, but they do not have the right to compromise the peace of this country in expressing their views. If they feel strongly that they have been given a raw deal, they should rather take the legal path to seek redress. That's the Most Reverend Emmanuel Asante saying that. There's more to that story. Just go to myjoyonline.com. Let's see if we can just go quickly through the rest of the stories on our page on myjoyonline.com. There's this other one. Composition of next parliament is God sent, according to Franklin Kujo, president of Imani Africa. And then limiting political parties during election petitions enhances speed of trial. Law lecturer Srem Sai, as he appeared on the law. And then Constitution permits EC to alter election verdicts, according to Ben Abdallah Banda, one MP who's not going back to the 8th Parliament, not because he lost the 2020 elections. He actually didn't even make it. He lost the primaries. But here's what he says. He's a member of Parliament for Offenso North, and he says that the Constitution of Ghana permits the Electoral Commission to alter an election verdict if need be. Speaking to JoyNews, Mr. Ben Abdallah dismissed claims that it's unlawful for the EC to amend election results. We're all working with CI 127, which says that declaration must be done by the chairperson of the EC, but it doesn't forbid the EC if she has honestly detected an error and comes back to correct it. That was a quote from that interview by Ben Abdallah, on myjoyonline.com. There are plenty of stories that you can explore. Ben, are you ready with the trends?
I am. Okay. I will actually do just something tied to the coronavirus on the BBC, but you can wrap up on that. I believe we have some 2 minutes.
I was going to go to the BBC actually, There's an update. Remember yesterday I shared a Nigeria kidnapping story?
Yes.
So the Islamic group is saying something. I wanted to share details of that.
And supposedly, one of the papers today, apparently those who committed the act have been surrounded. There was a story like that somewhere.
Okay, so let me just...
The Ghanaian Times, or one of the papers. Yes, Nigeria gunmen who seized children surrounded.
Okay.
Parents are anxiously waiting at the school for news about their children. The story says the Nigerian government troops have surrounded the area where gunmen are believed to be holding school children hostage in northwestern Katsina.
Okay, so this unfolded yesterday in the course of yesterday, but this angle is Boko Haram, which has said that it was behind the kidnapping of the hundreds of schoolboys in Nigeria's northwestern Katsina state, hinting the group's continued expansive and deadly reach in recent weeks. And this is the daily Nigerian website reporting. So at least hundreds of schoolboys at the government science secondary school, Kankara in Katsina state, are still missing in the wake of the Friday night attack. And according to Daily Nigeria, Boko Haram leader Abubakar Sheko said in a 4-minute audio message that his group carried out the attack because Western education is against the tenets of Islam. So...
You know that's what Boko Haram actually means, right? Anyway, but interestingly, they use a lot of Western stuff, but they...
They're against
even
Western
the ammunition
education.
they use is made in the West.
The irony of it, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, the BBC, what I'll focus on, new variant of the coronavirus identified in England. It appears that's one bit about dealing with the coronavirus. It keeps mutating and maybe not as quickly, but that's part of why we struggled with a virus like, HIV, actually, because of the mutations and all of that. But Biden, after win formalized, time to turn the page. Let me just
Mr. Trump still not conceding. Many believe that he will not concede.
I doubt he ever would. Inusaf Husseini is, and today I can say for all the wrong reasons, is trending at number 10 on Twitter. I don't want to repeat what he said.
But he backtracked. In that interview with Daniel.
Oh yeah, he said it was his opinion and all of that. But I feel what he said back then was in bad taste, though he was referencing Edubuahin. Back then, but it was in bad taste. May Allah is trending at number 7, and you should see some of the tweets. You know why it's trending? People fit in, someone has died, may Allah, take care of his soul and all of that. May Allah is trending at number 7. And at number 1, I just want us to take a look at this. Xavi, the former footballer with Barcelona, is trending at number 1, and I'll tell you why. Once a wise man said, when you're watching the game, you don't find Xavi, but if you watch Xavi play, you will see the whole game. Ballon d'Or dream. I mean, a lot of tweets about him. This final one I'll do. Bloody hell. Okay, so bloody something. This looks like Pep Guardiola's Barcelona, except it's Xavi's Al Sadd in Qatar. He's also been taking up some managerial posts, and they're saying that this guy is amazing on the pitch and as a manager. So he's at number 1 on the trends, actually. All
right, so now you know what's trending, you know what's in the newspapers. If you find any of the stories interesting, just go to the newsstands and go to myjoyonline.com and read plenty of stories. I want to say good morning to the MC for Wejagbawe Municipal Assembly, Patrick Kwesi Brako Kumo. Very good morning to you, and thanks for watching the show. Stay with us. Sports is right after this.